Hi, my name's Emily Langford. I use the pronoun she, her, and I identify as female. I'm a white settler and I experience a lot of white privilege in my life, but if you would have asked me to introduce myself a mere 4 months ago, I probably wouldn't have introduced myself using those facts. Come with me on my journey through ECS 102 as I discover who I am in relation to others and who I want to be. Let's go! I grew up here in Saskatchewan, Canada, where you could watch your dog run away for 3 days. Sage, come back! But where are the igloos? Contrary to classic Canadian stereotypes, us Canadians don't actually live in igloos. However, I do remember coming out here in elementary school multiple times and making quinzies. It was super fun and was just one of the many experiences that helped shape my Canadian identity and many other students' Canadian identity in my classes. What's really important to recognize here is that all of this beautiful land is Treaty 4 land and we are all treaty people. Prior to this class, I often asked myself why treaty acknowledgements were made at events and during announcements, and I kind of figured that everyone would know that this is Treaty 4 land by now, but do they really? And if they do they know why it's important that we acknowledge that? Also, I guess if you would have asked me before this class to name any other treaties in Canada or even Saskatchewan, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. Let's go head back to the classroom and look at some of the information that we look at in school. One of the persistent myths in mainstream society is that the information that we are taught in school is both factual and neutral. Well, the truth is that all this information is socially constructed, which means that we need to question the historical and cultural context in which the information is produced, validated, and circulated. Our social position also plays a huge role in the beliefs and values we hold. Also, Indigenous history wasn't taught in schools until fairly recently, where it was taught by a particular perspective, which would be the white perspective. And as a dominant culture teaching about a marginalized group's history, it creates a lot of normative narratives. And in order to disrupt these normative narratives, we really have to question the information around us. Prior to taking this class, I always thought that I was doing enough by not personally being racist. I would never say racist things or purposely discriminate against a person of color, and I really thought that that was good enough. But now that I've taken this class, I've realized that I was really wrong. I now realize that racism and the normative narratives surrounding racism are more than just an individual problem, and that we have to look at the world around us and analyze the effects of social systems and power dynamics in order to realize that racism is an institutional or systematic problem. My white privilege hid this idea from me for a very long time, but I now realize the importance in having confidence to have courageous conversations, rather than just sit back and agreeing with what everyone else is saying without questioning who's saying it or why they might be saying it. It's also really important to speak up when people don't understand the importance on things such as the John A. Macdonald statue coming down, the Walking with Our Angels site, Dewdney Avenue being renamed, or other topics such as cultural appropriation or reverse racism. The same idea around courageous conversations can be applied to many things, including gender, sexuality, or disability. All in all, I'm looked at as the ideal. I'm a cisgendered, white, able-bodied, straight individual who's privileged enough to live in a good neighborhood and attend university. I've never had to worry about not being able to find my makeup shade or being turned down in job interviews or while trying to get a mortgage because of my skin tone. I've also never received backlash for using a restroom that's labeled with the gender that I identify as, and school comes really easy to me because I fall into the normal category and all of the supports I need to succeed are handed to me. Prior to this class, I often found myself using common rebuttals against my privilege in all of these areas. I often denied that I had privilege over people who didn't fit in society's created norms, but I've come to the realization that instead of going off of what all of my friends and family say, I need to think critically and have those courageous conversations needed to make a change. It was and still is often really frustrating to have these conversations with my family over topics that they don't fully understand. I find myself doing this every time I visit my grandparents and often in many conversations with my own parents. But I still have a lot of learning to do, but now I'm much more aware of my social position in relation to others, and I know I want to be a person who makes changes for the better, not only for myself, but for everyone around me.